Who was the Buddha is our next topic. For this segment of the lecture, I would ask SK and his better half, Tajita, both of them to give us this presentation. What is the Buddha? Please help me to welcome SK and Tajita.
Hi, friends in the Dharma and new classmates. I'm SK. I joined the AW class in 2010, so this is beginning my third year. My wife, Tajita, and today we'd like to introduce to you the lecture, Who Was the Buddha? Next, please.
So the word Buddha simply means one who is awakened, in the sense of having waken up to perceive the total reality.
The word Buddha actually is only the name. When we first start the lecture, it's after Dr. Low has shown us some way how to wake ourselves up. Actually, in our daily life, we usually just doing what we're doing. We don't know actually what we're doing. Like sometime when we're sipping a tea or drinking a coffee, we don't know actually what kind of movement or what we are doing. So actually, we like to introduce the way just opposite to what Dr. Low told us last time. He told us from university to faculty to the department and to the center. I like us to awaken ourselves from the down up, from the center. That is the self. How to do it? We will have lecture in our curriculum to show you. And then the way next is department. That is, we have to depart from our environment, our attachment, and our clinging to all those desires. And next is our faculties. So most of the time, we're just doing the thing according to our habits, our thoughts, and this all originated from our faculties, the five senses, or in the Dharma, we call it five aggregates. In our subsequent lectures, we'll show you how our minds works, and then finally, we will awaken ourselves to the universe, to this cosmos, how to gain the harmony. So this is actually what Buddha is doing. Besides awaken himself to the Buddha, is also trying to awaken other beings. That is the most important lecture tool in our class.
Sorry about the interjection, but just for the benefit of the newcomer students today, what SK is saying is linking last lecture about the fragmentation. When I talk about the fragmentation of our whole being, from the holistic, universal, wholesome being into faculties which perceives reality, then departments and centers. So now we all become egocentric. That is the fault of our education system, and it will not be meaningful to the new classmates until you review previous lecture. That's why it's important not to miss class, because everything is said is about how to rebuild in reverse order, how to rebuild our whole being, holistic health, which is what Jen is talking about. So everything is interrelated. Every topic we talk about is a very tight integration to reinforce the same concept over and over again. All right. So I just want to make it clear for the newcomers. Thank you. In case they are lost.
Thank you. Next, please.
Here the story begins. We're going to learn about the Buddha. Around the year of 623 BC, in the district of Nepal, in northeast India, a prince of the Siddhartha family was born. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. So there are a couple of pronunciations that you can pronounce his name, whether it's Siddhartha Gautama or Siddhartha Gautama.
In Sanskrit, Siddhartha means every wishes come true. Before I start about the life of Buddha, I'd like to give some information about the history of the Indian. In the year of 2001, in the district of Dhaka in India, they had uncovered from the hidden sea a lost city. And the city is dating back to 12,000 years ago. So it pulls back the history of India almost 8,000 years back to the time when their civilization began. The Indians actually don't have a very good sense about history. They don't write down the time in their records. So in the Western country, they figure out that civilization maybe began just 6,000 or 8,000 years ago. But in fact, it's more than that. And what the Indians, they study at that time, they usually study collection of philosophical texts called the Panacet. And from these philosophical texts, then they come the Brahmanism and all other different kind of philosophy schools. So the world actually owes a lot to the Indian because they're the first one discovered the Arabic figures. Because of the trade, the Arabs learned the Arabic figure from the Indian. And they're the first one discover the zero and the decimal. We know then a little bit of background or history of the Buddha. Actually, before Buddhism come into being, there are actually about 96 schools of philosophers in India. Actually, at that time, Buddha had to debate with other schools in order to gain the confidence of the people. Next, please.
Brought up in wealth and luxury, he received comprehensive education befitting a prince. He married and had a son.
Buddha married at the age of 16. At this point, we have to notice that other than his wealthy, luxury, and he also had a beautiful wife. So he almost had everything actually we desire today. But he renounced all issues and just tried to pursue the cause, the mission for the liberation of the whole beings, human beings and all the beings. Next, please.
One day, he saw a farmer plowing the field. The overturned soil uncovered a worm, which was quickly eaten by a bird. He was bewildered by the irony that the life of the bird relies on the death and suffering of the worm, and the cause effect of the farmer's seemingly unrelated activity.
This happened when he was at the age of 9. His father brought him to one of the planting festivals, and this episode happened. We'll leave this a little bit behind, and then we'll go to the next, please.
The initial drive. Contemplating on life and death, Siddhartha was deeply concerned with the sufferings and sorrow of old age, sickness, and death, and he realized he would face the same reality.
And one day, actually, Buddha going out of the palace and saw what's happening in the real world, and he asked attendants, "Does this old age, sickness, and death come to me too?" And his attendant answered, "Yes, it will." And then he figured out that actually his mother passed away 7 days after he was born. So this had some kind of impact on him. Another thing happened is that on the street, he saw a farmer, actually at that time, meditation on the street. And he asked his attendant what he's doing. And his attendant answered that, "Sir, this gentleman is meditating and trying to liberate himself from all sufferings." Next, please.
Motivated to seek salvation for humanity, he unleashed himself from ruling a small kingdom and the associated fleeting material pleasures of a royalty.
So he realized that no matter how much luxury he's enjoying, will depart in one day. So he figured out that what is the ultimate, at that time, the most, or we call it liberation, for me and the whole human beings. Next, please.
Here comes the progress. He practiced strenuously all forms of vigorous ascetic practices and meditation for 6 years.
So as I mentioned at that time, meditation already exists in India, and it's all kind of ascetic practices to see how they can liberate from all these sufferings. And Buddha tried to practice all this to experience himself. Next.
The painful austerities he practiced proved absolutely futile. And he found that whenever he stopped meditation, all his tranquility would simply vanish.
Here is one very important we wish to point that meditation is good, but it's not the ultimate path to seek for the enlightenment. Buddha, even with all his effort, found this is not working for him. Next, please.
His severe practices reduced his body to almost a skeleton and resulted in the lassitude of his spirit.
So from here, you can see what Janet in his lecture today, physical health and mental health and spiritual health came all together. So by just punishing our physical body, cannot gain any gain in our spirit. Next.
Here comes the paramita roadmap. So what is paramita? Here, pyramid means the other shore, and da means arrived.
Paramita is a Sanskrit word. In learning Buddhism, we always say, oh, we already reached the other shore. Later on, I will explain more about what is meant by paramita. Next, please.
The historical incident was that Gautama, after receiving milk from the shepherd girl, jumped into the river to wash his body. He left behind the severe asceticism, physical austerity, and futile meditation practices on the one shore, and swam to the other shore to start his hard journey to enlightenment.
Here, usually when we read the story, we just let the things here just pass by easily. Is that this shepherd girl gave Buddha the milk and some rice. If we figure out ourselves, put us in a picture, then we can realize how is his impact on the Buddha. Because the shepherd girl, out of her compassion, without any purpose or without any desire, give Buddha at that time milk and rice was considered very precious too. And this had a very great impact on the Buddha, because on his side, he can feel his gratitude, propelling forces of his compassion and his propelling force of gratitude met. And he had such a wonderful feeling. Next.
Prana Parami. The Sanskrit word paramita means to cross over to the other shore, from the shore of avidya to the shore of enlightenment, the attainment of perfect wisdom.
Here, we have to explain a little bit about prana paramita. The Sanskrit actually, at that time, for the Buddha, is belonging to kind of worded Sanskrit. It's different from the Sanskrit nowadays because that is the classic Sanskrit. And the Sanskrit word carries a lot of enigmatic meanings. Because of that, is open to lots of interpretation. That's why in the translation in China, they don't want to lose the original meaning of this prana parameter. So they don't translate this word. So in Chinese it's called 般若波羅蜜多, 般若波羅蜜多. So the name sounds almost similar to the Sanskrit word. And in those days, because the word is Sanskrit, carrying the meaning is so vast and so copious. In learning all those philosophy, usually the disciple just kneel down and listen to the guru or their teachers. Next, please.
Paramitas is the roadmap to enlightenment.
This roadmap to enlightenment is different from each and everyone.
Sorry about the interjection. SK is a vocabulary verdict. Verdict is simply the adjective of Vedas. And Vedas are the original holy text even before Upanishad. So these are the maybe 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, that ancient wisdom, that's all. It's just ancient holy text before first written, that's all.
Thank you, Dr. Low.
Next. Prana is the interconnected dynamic forces and activities among all things within the cosmic web.
Here we know that actually we just try to put it in words to describe the prana. It's a force, but actually this is quite inconceivable. We had a Chinese poem by one of the poets in China said, 天地有正氣, that this kind of propelling force existing in the heaven and on earth, 雜形賦流形, and it had been transmitted in many forms, 上則為日星, 下則為河岳. That means on the above, it manifested as the sun, moon, and star. And down below is manifested in the form of mountain rivers. 於人若浩然, and in human is also existing this kind of propelling force too. 沛乎塞蒼冥, and this kind of force is filling every empty spaces in the space and in every atom. So we can find in the atoms actually is 99% empty. Next, please.
Prana parameter is the propelling force to navigate this journey of the heart. For example, we have the Prana parameter Heart Sutra.
So from here we know that actually this is a kind of force also navigate our thought, our words, and our actions. As a Buddhism, we all learn from this Prana Parameter Heart Sutra, and in deep study, then we know this prana forces also in the end of this sutra is some mantras. And some people may say, oh, what is the use of reciting mantras? We know that the sound frequencies change phase. So that's why at the end of this Prana Parameter Sutra is the mantras. That's why when we wholehearted reciting the Heart Sutra, something inconceivable will happen. Next, please.
The awakening. On the other shore, Gautama sat under a tree, gazed at the cosmic night sky, and remembered the farmer, the world, and the birds. It dawned on him that everything that arises could only arise out of conditions that cause it to arise or to be created. The creation of the universe is no exception. The arising of all phenomena depends on pre-existing conditions. He formulated the doctrine of dependent origination, Pratya Samutpada.
Here we can see Buddha actually used the micro observation and macro observation to see things just arises out of conditions. So we have this comes and with that comes. So actually, what the Buddha, the most important doctrine he founded, actually is this dependent origination. Even the Four Noble Truths and also the 8 stages of good path is already existing before Buddha. And this dependent origination is actually the new doctrine founded by the Buddha. He also found this kind of avidya, and this is ignorance. It's the root of all suffering. Suffering is come from this avidya. And for this point, we will have a lecture to fully explain how it works. Next, please.
Then comes the wholesome enlightenment. He eradicated all defilements, purified himself totally, and realized things as they truly were, and attained enlightenment by his own striving at the age of 35.
So here we see Buddha just enlighten himself on his own effort. He depends on no other external forces. So at the age of 35, he's totally enlightened. Next, please.
People called him the Awakened One, or Gautama Buddha, or Sakyamuni. He served humanity as a living example of perfect enlightenment. He taught precepts and ideology and eradicated all self-benefits.
Sakya is the name of the tribe of the Buddha, and Muni in Indian is called maybe a teacher, a guru. Next.
The Buddha passed away in his 80th year as an ordinary human being who had lived out a perfect life of virtue.
So Buddha was born as a human, lived his life as a human, and passed away as a human. That's why he gives us an example that this kind of Buddha's nature is in each and every one of us. And what we should do is that we should do it in our lifetime, not in the next lifetime. Next.
Advancing the truth. Buddha exhorted his disciples to regard his Dharma as their teachers.
What the Buddha taught his disciples, one of the most important things is that don't believe what I said. You have to experience yourself and practice yourself to see and validate whether it is working before you believe. Next, please.
And he never arrogated to himself any sort of divinity or deity.
Buddha never regarded himself as a god or any kind of idol to be respected. During his lifetime, actually, he tried to discourage his disciples. He's just an ordinary person like every one of them.
He exhorted his disciples to depend on themselves for their deliverance through purification of defilements.
So again, Buddha reminds his disciples, they have to depend themselves for the deliverance, for their own enlightenment and their own awakening.
Enlightenment is not only for oneself, but for all beings.
And this is most important too. So in our classes, we should learn that we are attending this class and learning this lesson is for other beings. We open up our heart and look at all the things from a different respect. Next, please.
The Dharma is the teacher. Again and again, Buddha reminded his followers it was superficial and futile to seek redemption through benignant saviors and to pray for illusionary happiness in afterlife through the propitiation of imaginary gods or by irresponsive prayers and meaningless sacrifices.
Buddha reminds us that actually we cannot seek any gift or any happiness from the illusionary God. When we come to temple, also in the Diamond Sutra, you cannot ask anything from the Buddha. You just come here to pay the respect to the Buddha and remind yourself the Dharma of the Buddha.
His iron will, profound wisdom, universal love, boundless compassion, selfless service, historic renunciation, exemplary methods employed to propagate the teachings. All these have influenced 6% of the population of the world today to hail him as their teacher.
Here the word compassion very well coined. It's like a compass. It's enclosing everything and enclosing every passion. It's included our love, our gratitude, our mercifulness, our selflessness, all this kind of good virtue. And also, the work to enlightenment is not only for ourselves. We don't only enlighten the Buddha nature in ourselves, but also the Buddha nature in others. And thank you for coming today.
Sorry, we have 20 minutes behind because we have to accommodate our new students today for filling in the pre-class survey, and they have to do that before the class. Otherwise, as soon as the class starts, your perspectives will already change. You would have answered that survey question very differently, believe me. That is why we had the 20 minutes delay, and I hope that has not been an inconvenience to anyone else. Does anybody have to leave quickly because of other engagement? Feel free. Next week, there is no class because it's a Chinese New Year, and I will be asking Ming soon to come and say a few words about the Chinese New Year thing. But before that, please go back to several slides. Let's go back to the prana parameter. Yeah, this one, yeah. So here, remember this is several thousand years ago. I want to draw your attention to these things. Prana parameter, as SK said, this word exists before Gautama Buddha, Sakyamuni Buddha. This prince was about 2,500 years ago. Before that, there was Brahmanism. Before that, there was Vedas, which before that is Sanantata. Okay, so this is about 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. In India, this concept already exists about cosmic web, about everything connecting to everything. Now, in our AWE mission, we equate science equals Buddhism equals philosophy, right? So in today's modern language, we can explain this very comfortably, but 10,000 years ago, this is the best they could do. All right? Today, with the discovery of the Higgs boson, it's only about 3-4 months ago, and also in quantum mechanics about quantum entanglement, and all these we will go into later on in the curriculum year 4. If you read the website, it's all there. We will explain all this stuff in detail, using modern science to validate ancient wisdom from the philosophical, using the metaphysical approach. And that is why Tathagata. How does these things become from nothing to something? Okay, that's if you understand how the Higgs boson works, you understand how matter is created from energy and so on. So this is how the physical can become from the non-physical. And these are what they're thinking about when they're meditating tens of thousands of years ago. They're not asking any deities to be blessing them. Okay, and this is kind of current, modern, made in Canada Buddhism that AWE is advancing. Okay, so I just want to point that out. And with that propelling force, which is universal connectivity. Okay, so next slide, please. This is again connectivity, personal experience, and so on and so forth. Next slide. Yeah, but that's it. So go back one. I'll read the thing. Ignorance. This is what we're overcoming. Coming to this class, we are overcoming this ignorance, okay, by modern science. All right? There's no superstition whatsoever about this. So you come for the AW course, and the younger the better. When you're 8-year-old, 12-year-old, these things are simple to you because you have not yet been contaminated with all this irrelevant, fragmented education. You will know all this stuff is just natural because the truth is simple and beautiful and natural. Right? Once you get a big picture, everything else you do in life is easy. That's why it's the Academy of Wisdom. By getting rid of ignorance with the correct knowledge, we will develop wisdom from that. How? That's another lecture. So if we would please close that. Let us do merit transfer. So put our palm together. We transfer merit. By this effort, may all sentient beings be free of suffering.
May all sentient beings be free of suffering.
May their minds be filled with the nectar of virtue.
May their minds be filled with the nectar of virtue.
In this way, may all causes resulting in sufferings
may this way all causes resulting in suffering
be extinguished, and only the light of compassion shine
and only the light of compassion shine
throughout all realms.
Throughout all realms.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.